Okay, so this is Mishlei 2121, which we started. Hey, since we started this yesterday, but everyone here is new, so we can take our time. We can go into a third day if need be, but we did all the groundwork for you. Okay, Mishlei 2121. Rodef tzedakah v'chesed yimtza chaim. Sorry, yimtza chaim tzedakah v'chavod. One who chases or pursues tzedakah will find life, tzedakah, and kavod. Okay. And then Sadigon changed it to, he basically added definite articles on all the words. Okay, so Hadorish es hatzedek v'ha chesed matza hachaim v'ha tzedakah v'ha kavod. So several changes actually. First of all, he changes rodef to doresh, so chasing to seeking. Okay, which is a specific kind of chasing, right? Like seeking, I guess desire-wise or in your mind, whatever. Changes the first tzedakah to tzedek, okay, righteousness, which is, by the way, an ambiguity in the word tzedakah. Tzedakah can either mean like charity or like acts of tzedakah versus like the quality or the perfection of tzedek, right? He changes chesed to ha chesed. He changes future tense of yimtza, he will find, to past tense of he has found. He changes chaim to ha chaim. Second one, tzedakah, he changes to ha tzedakah, and then kavod he changes to ha kavod. Okay, so a lot of weird little subtle changes. All right, so that's Sadigon. Now here are our questions. So when we did this yesterday, then we thought that there were not that many questions, and then we found like a ton of questions. Okay, so questions are: what does rodef mean in this context? Okay, practically, what does it mean? Like decision-wise, like what are you doing? Also, what is the difference between a rodef tzedakah on the one hand, or let's put it here, rodef tzedakah versus a tzaddik versus an oseh tzedakah, right? In other words, tzaddik sounds like someone who's completely like characterized by tzedek or tzedakah. Doing tzedakah sounds like a lesser thing than chasing tzedakah, so what is that chasing tzedakah? Similarly with the rodef chesed. So you have a chassid who is like characterized by chesed. You have someone who is gomel chesed, who just like does chesed, and then rodef chesed is like this middle one. And I pointed out yesterday that there are only 6 pasukim in Mishlei that talk about chesed, and this is one of them. All right, so like it's not a big Mishlei theme. Okay, 2, what is tzedakah in this context? Is it a quality, righteousness? Okay, that's like a tzedek, or is it an act? Would you say like charity or like doing the mitzvah of tzedakah or some acting out of tzedek? Okay. 3, what is chesed in this context? Is it a quality, like perfection, kindness, or going beyond the letter of the law, or super righteousness, as we say in our Tilm shiur, or is it an act, like acts of kindness or acting in accordance with chesed? Right? 4, who is the tzedakah and chesed for? Does it mean you're chasing it for yourself? Does it mean you're chasing it to do for other people? Does it mean like in abstract, right? Who's it for if it's for anyone? 5, what is chaim in this context? Does it mean like a longer lifespan? Does it mean quality of life? Like many times in Mishlei when it says life and death, it doesn't mean like biological life and like being killed. It means like the good life or the bad life. And then like enjoyment, or is it like life in olam haba? 6, is the tzedakah in the first half the same as the tzedakah in the second half? So Sadigon changed it. So 2 different things. 8, what does 7, what does kavod mean? Is it honor from other people? Does it mean like glory, like in an objective sense, like you are glorified as a human being? Does it mean like respect from other people? 8, what does yimtza mean? To find, and like in other words, will he like encounter it? Does it mean like he'll search it out and like find it like with intention? Like what is yimtza? Is just like a weird word. Okay, now 9 is the way Isaac phrased the question, and this was the big question. Okay, what's up with the weird relationship between the inputs and the outputs? Okay, so here's the thing: you seek tzedakah, and you get tzedakah. If it just said that, like it'd be fine. Okay, one who seeks tzedakah will get tzedakah, but you seek tzedakah and chesed, but you don't get chesed back, right? So that's a little weird. And then also you get kavod and chaim, and the ordering is weird. Usually I'm not so big on like the ordering in the pasukim, but like I gave an analogy yesterday. Like if I told you, like if I said, if you work on self-improvement, you will get friends, self-improvement, and riches. it's just like a weird order to like the normal way to say it is like, if you work on self-improvement, not only will you get self-improvement, but you'll also get like these other two things. So it's just like, it'd be fine if it said rodif tzedakah, yimtza tzedakah. It'd be fine if it said rodif tzedakah, v'chesed yimtza tzedakah, chaim, it's just a weird order, It's just like the balance strikes you as weird. And then the last, question number 10 is, are these bundled? Okay, on both sides, meaning, do you need tzedakah and chesed to get these three outcomes? Or like, what if you just pursued tzedakah? Will you get nothing? Will you get chaim, tzedakah, and kavod in less measure? Do tzedakah and chesed combo like to produce something that's greater than the sum of its parts? Or do they, what exactly is the relationship? And then also, is chaim, tzedakah, and kavod a bundle? Like, do they all come together, or is it, is it just three things that you happen to get? We had a lot more questions than I thought. Okay. Yes, that was likewise, what's the relationship between the outcomes? Do they necessarily come together intrinsically? Do they come each in a separate way from the redifas, tzedakah, v'chesed? 12, why decide you convert them all into definite articles with the? And then what's the havamina? Okay, and we said there are many havaminas. Is the havamina that you won't find anything? Is the havamina that you'll find something different? Is the havamina that you'll find more of the same? Is the havamina that you'll find only one of these things? Is the havamina that you'll find something bad? So those are our many questions. Yeah. Okay. So since everyone is new today and Isaac's not here yet, anyone have any ideas? Yeah.
That someone who's rodif tzedakah and chesed, they seem to be living for things outside just themselves, right? That they're recognizing things outside of them, and then from that, what they will find. I haven't gotten to yet the rodif part in particular, but from that they will find the hayim, tzedakah, and kavod, all those being things like a higher quality life if we're going to go down that route. Then tzedakah, they themselves will, however we want to translate tzedakah as far as a righteousness, that there will be both that they themselves will be acting that way, and they will also be then treated in a more proper way. Yeah. And then kavod, people will have a lot of respect for someone who's living outside themselves. Yeah. I guess in a similar way of like one who runs away from kavod, they're the one who gets kavod. Right. And then I guess then to the rodif part, in particular, someone who like really cares about this, is not just like every here and there you would see something. Right, not like happenstance. It is like I'd say rodif seems to be more of a character of this guy. Right. Happenstance thing. Yeah. Okay, good. That's basically what we came up with yesterday. Yeah, fine. Okay. Yeah, you want to
not really answered or anything. Yeah. But I kind of feel like as a word such as chesed and kavod are very ambiguous, at least.
Oh yes, correct. I actually yesterday defined gave a basic definition just to get our bearings. Yeah. Did you want to propose a definition, or you're just asking?
No, I was asking because there are whole shiurs given on what is chesed.
Right. So what we did was we just to get a basis, because it's such a, like you're saying, such a broad terms, we use the Rambam's definition in the Morning Mishlei in the last parak. Which is chesed is excess, and it's usually excess good, and it's usually excess good in one of two ways: is either giving someone something that you don't owe them, or giving something to someone that you owe but in a greater measure than you owe. Right, so it's beyond obligation, basically. Okay, in terms of the good, and then tzedakah is giving someone what is owed them. Okay, either legally or giving someone what is owed them in terms of like what their needs are, So that's like the mitzvah of tzedakah in the Torah. Midot Raisa is de machsaro asher yachsar lo, is you provide the person with whatever they need, whether it's like physical needs, social needs, psychological needs, So that's how we define them in a basic way, and we were content with that. Yeah. Any other observations, ideas, approaches? Sure, that's fine. So while you're thinking, I'm gonna just I
guess a question. I don't know if you can ask this type of question of why, insofar as the outputs, why these, both for the inputs and the outputs, why these inputs to these outputs and why these outputs from these inputs.
Yeah.
You can ask that type of question.
Yeah, you could definitely ask that type of question. I think that's a major question. I thought you were answering it though.
Yeah, I was trying to, but if we're looking.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Oh, you meaning to add that as a question?
Yeah, I also even think even with what I was saying, I think that what I was saying was more like general type of way of being. I wasn't particular about tzedakah and chesed as much as they show a certain character in the guy. Yeah. But I feel like you could have put in other things other than tzedakah and chesed also.
Right. Yeah, and it's not necessarily that these are the only way to get these things.
Yeah.
But definitely asking what the cause and effect relationship is important. Let me just see if I took notes on yesterday. No, I didn't. So just to reiterate, our approach, which I think is like almost the exact same as your approach, is if you are someone who seeks tzedakah and chesed, meaning that you, with the people around you, you assess what their needs are and you try to provide their needs, and you go above and beyond what their needs are, and you're seeking it, meaning that, like you're saying, it's not just like when it happens to come along, then it comes along. So then there's going to be 3 results of that. One is that you are going to improve your quality of life. Now, how are you going to do that? Because I think this is Marcus Aurelius' quote. I've never seen it inside though. What's good for the hive is good for the bees. Meaning that the more you improve the system, like the more you take care of the needs of the people in the system, it's going to make your life better, right? Like you're part of that system also. Secondly, people will because of a feeling of reciprocity, right? People will be motivated to do tzedakah for you. Now, they're not going to be motivated to do chesed for you. They might, but that's not something you can expect. Like, reciprocity is a normal psychological thing. When someone does good for you, then when you do good for someone, they want to do good for you. But it's not necessarily a thing where you go out of your way to do something like excess, then everyone's going to go out of their way to do excess for you. So that's why it's not in the second part. And then kavod is, over time, you will get this reputation of being someone who is a Baal Tzedakah and Baal Chesed, and that is going to provide you with like all the benefits that come from that kavod. Like, first of all, kavod feels good. Mishlei is not dealing with someone who is not interested in kavod, and there are going to be perks of that as well. Like, we've done a lot of pasukim on Monday nights, where like if you have a reputation as someone who's a Baal Tzedakah, then if you're in a situation of dire need, people will step up and like really take care of you. Isaac, we just reviewed, and like David basically gave the same approach that we had yesterday. The order we explained to mean that it's in terms of like immediacy to it's in order of proximity. So like immediately you're improving the system. Longer term, people will want to pay you back, and then longer term, then you're going to get this reputation as being a as having kavod. Yeah.
So if we're defining life or chayim as like the quality of life,
yeah,
doesn't that already kind of fill up what tzedakah is? Because like, how could you have like quality of life without having your basic needs?
Yeah. So we were a little undecided about this. That we were thinking that chayim, like, in other words, like, Isaac was giving the example of like in a marriage where, like, let's say like if you see that your wife has certain needs and you take care of her needs, that's just going to improve the system, right? Like, she's going to be happier. That's going to make you happier. She's going to do whatever her functions or her roles are. That's going to contribute to the household as a whole. And that's not even her doing tzedakah for you. Like, that's just in terms of her contribution to the system. But then beyond that, on a particular level, then she will do good for you as well. So it's like enriching the system, and then like as a whole, and then one-to-one, person-to-person, like they will pay you back, and then like and then you'll get this reputation. I think that's how we ended up yesterday. Yeah. Did you want to say something?
I'm backtracking.
Okay, fine. You don't even want to say it so we can see if there's anything to work with?
Okay, so I have 2 intuitions.
Yeah.
Okay, the first one is, and this is a very completely different read in terms of Sadia Gaon, which is that a person who is looking for it is going to find it, but a person who's not looking for it is not going to find it.
Okay, I was thinking something similar yesterday. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I'm still trying to figure out tzedakah and chesed and how that relates to life, tzedakah and kavod.
Okay, sure. So that first step is good, and it actually reminds me of that the word matzah is used in 2 ways. I think there's a Meiri on this. Let me just, if I can quote a Meiri. Whenever you can quote a Meiri, then do it. This is on, yeah, you got it?
Well, yeah, just to explain a little bit further what I'm saying, which is that if a person really wants to see something that's there, then he'll see it. But if a person who doesn't want to see something that's there, or doesn't acknowledge that thing is there, is not going to see it.
Right. Okay. That's good. So this is in Mishlei. Am I looking at the wrong Matzah pasuk? Oh yeah, here we go. 3:13. Ashrei Adam Matzah Chachma v'Adam Yafik Tvuna. Happy / praiseworthy is the man who has found Chachma, and a man who can derive understanding. So the Meiri says, and I think can I not make this bigger? No, I can make it bigger. Meiri is long. Very long. Let me just do a search for Matzah Chachma. Matzah Chachma. It's not working either. Hold on. Makes you appreciate the interface on certain other sites. Okay. Oh, is that, yeah. Okay, maybe it's not the Meiri. Darn, it'll not work. So I'll just say it then. Someone says the word matzah is used in two ways. Maybe this, I thought it is the Meiri. Or whatever. Matzah is used in two ways. Matzah can mean a happenstance finding, like in Elu Mitzios, right? Or like, finding a lost object. You're not searching for lost, like you, the random guy, didn't search for it, you happened upon it. So it can mean a chance happening, or it can mean something that you were looking for and then found. So Sean's taking the stance that it is something you were looking for and then you found, which fits into the pasuk because it says Rodeth. And the person who's looking for what?
I think that is the Meiri, maybe in chapter 10.
In chapter 10? Oh, maybe you're right. That does ring a bell. I'm not gonna look for it now, but yeah. Either it's in chapter 10 or I brought it up in a Monday night Mishlei shiur, which is why we think it's chapter 10. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're looking for Tzedakah and Chesed, then you will find it. And can we explain why? Is that let me just be clear? Are you saying that's would be? It's not like you're saying that's true for anything you're looking for, not specifically to these things, right? Yeah. Right. It's like
meaning a lot of interactions you can have with people,
Mhm.
right? You can either give them the benefit of the doubt that they're operating in a way that is towards being nice and being favorable to others, or you can interpret the things that they're doing towards the negative.
Right.
And so the person who wants to find it is going to find it only if they really want to see it within other people. Right.
Yeah, I quoted B'nai Brown yesterday in conjunction with this. I forgot how I applied it, but it was kind of like that. I think it was in this year. Yeah, I think it was in this year. Or maybe it was in my Rambam shiur.
Yeah, and so then finding life is like finding, right, that people actually care, right, and like that's a invigorating experience, and then seeing that the world works through justice, and then when you find and then the kavod,
kavod's a hard one, right? Because it's this is what makes Sadigon a little harder to me, because the pasuk to me reads like these are perks you get from Rodef Tzedakah v'Chesed, as opposed to Sadigo makes it sound like discoveries,
Well, it could be like meaning the code in that like now you can respect and honor the person, right? Before it was like impossible to to judge them and to see them favorably,
right? And
through seeing all these things, so then you can respect them.
So when you see that this is a person who has needs that could be addressed through tzedakah, like when you see them in the framework of tzedakah, right? And in the framework of chesed, like someone who's worthy of receiving chesed, not worthy in the sense of owed, but like in the sense of like a human being with needs who's seeking the good that you can assist, that relationship to them instills them with a certain human dignity, like kavod brios type of kavod, not kavod like glory type of kavod. And like then you can relate to them in that way. That's a good shot. So you'll find, okay, Chaim, so you want to say Chaim is like a certain experience of life when you say
like you feel connected to a person.
Right.
When you see that you're one and the same in a sense, right? There's a intense connection that forms out of that, and that's like very lightful.
Right. Right. Yeah. I see the second two clearer. I just want to think about this one a little bit more. Just as a side point here, this is definitely a very in line with Ashrei, which we're doing in Tehillim, which is Hanun Adonai b'chol derachav v'chasi b'chol masav. That's a pasuk in Ashrei, right? And Tov Hashem l'kol v'rachamav v'kol masav. That God definitely views his creatures in these ways, right? As through the lens of tzedakah, as tzaddik Hashem b'chol derachav, and then in terms of kavod, of like the very fact that he commands us in kavod abrios and says everyone's created b'tzelem Elokim, and must be a posech tzedakah must be a l'chol chai ratzon. I don't know if that's the same type of chai. I don't think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think to explain the life better.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of the Brene Brown and the anatomy piece, you're shifting from an object perspective of the person to they're a living being.
Right. So how's that different than kavod?
Kavod is seeing them as a human being. You can still disrespect a human being, right? And it's not the nice thing to do, right? But you can still relate to someone as being human and still relating to them in a negative way. So kavod is I think the positive shift in terms of there's an initial shift from object to person, and then there's a shift from person to like. Okay. So then can we explain all three of them in a sequential way? That would be really nice, right? So you first relate to them instead of object. You relate to them as a person. That's what time is, and then person with needs. Someone with needs, right? And then from those needs, so then you can find respect for them. Okay, that's good.
Could I ask / clarify with the needs part? Are you saying particular to needs, or just like the way that people are as far as like having needs, like coming with certain dispositions? All that's encased in the human,
and the fact that they're part of a system that you're also a part of, you know. But I think the system-wide, the system perspective is what I associate more. Actually, I don't know. Scratch that. Yeah, Ellie. Chaim. Oh yeah, Chaim. Yeah, sorry. You can if you use the hand raise feature, then it'll pop up on Okay.
I just wanted to add in that also when you get to the kavod, like the point where you're at kavod, then it will become I would think as Rabbi Zimmer would probably say pro-cyclical, in that then
pro-cyclical. I've never heard that term before.
We started using it in shiur like last week, so I'm just gonna like jump on it.
Sure.
And like we were saying, like what's better for the hive is better for the bees or something like that, right? Yeah. So you have someone who is a person of kavod, and now they are doing things of tzedakah and chesed. Like, firstly, I would think like it means more to a person when someone who's like they look at as like someone with kavod is doing something nice for them or good for them, and then also he can help like cultivate like more people like this and who are doing these things. He has a bigger impact on the whole.
Right. So you're saying that but maybe try to understand pro-cyclical, meaning this not only is Rotiv tzedakah v'chesed the input, and then Yimtzah Chaim tzedakah v'kavod the output, but then that output becomes input that generates. Yeah,
exactly. Meaning once he gets
virtuous cycle, right?
He's not gonna stop when he becomes kavod. Like someone who has this perfection is gonna keep doing these things. Right. So not only is he's gonna keep perfecting himself, he's gonna have a bigger impact on the whole, and he's gonna I would think he's going to create more people like this.
Who are Rotiv tzedakah v'chesed. Yeah, exactly. That's true. Okay, that's a good try. Yeah.
Okay, so when I look at the second half of this, I kind of see like a hierarchy of needs. Right?
Yeah.
I'm very into that. So I see, like there's like we were mentioning how there might be an order to them before, so and they like progress.
Oh, I see. I see where you're going. Yeah.
Which is like the basic.
Yeah. Survival. Right. Yeah.
Tzedakah, which is like your basic needs, and then kavod, which is like the support system.
Wait, sorry, what's the difference between Chaim and tzedakah?
Well, Chaim is life itself.
Right, but isn't that through your basic needs? Like,
right.
I think we can still take this approach, right? Chaim is like your food, clothing, shelter, right? That's like biological needs. Yeah. Tzedakah would be like social. That's also kavod though.
No, there's like.
Or
physiological needs, and then on top of that, there's needs that are
resource-based needs, something like beyond that, and then kavod would be like the
kavod could be self-actualization. That's the last thing.
Right. That's true. Right. That's like the using kavod in the like true human kavod.
Dignity.
Right. Yeah.
Right. He's a person who's not just in his base nature. But
right. That's okay. That's a good shot also. Yeah, Chaim.
Yeah, I wanted to jump on what you were saying about like the social standing needs, in that we see a large part of tzedakah is like if like someone who's rich becomes poor, you have to like bring him up to like his social standing. Like that's
right.
like a huge.
That would be a good tzedakah then, correct? Right. That's beyond the basic needs, but it's also nothing to do with dignity.
Exactly.
I mean, with that true human self-actualization.
Right. So I was going to say exactly what you were saying with like the social dynamic. That would be tzedakah in this case as well.
Right.
As far as
right. And according to this interpretation, then the tzedakah in the first half of the pasuk is a different usage than the one in the second half. The first half does mean like everything in the second half, right? Like all of a person's needs. Does that make me happy or sad?
How does it differ from chesed?
So I've still been working with the premise that chesed is going beyond, but you're right. We have to change that now, beyond what you owe. Yeah. So could we refine it better? And I also want to reconsider. I was also just plugging in our definition of chesed into what you were saying. I'm wondering if there is a different, either a different idea of tzedakah of the chesed duality or like a nuance that we get from the way that you're approaching it. Could we just ask what, and this might pertain to both your interpretations, what's the difference between a person who, or what quality in a person, what's the difference between a person who does tzedakah and a person who does chesed? And clearly the person who does chesed is going to be doing tzedakah also, but yeah. And by the way, just as a interpretive maneuver, I can see Mishlei as being as saying this and really emphasizing chesed, but because it wants to show the primacy of tzedakah, then it mentions tzedakah also.
Yeah, I don't think that just through tzedakah you would get what I'm talking about. Right?
Okay, right.
Just seeing just an obligation to another person does not necessarily mean that the way in which you're relating to them is going to be proper. Chesed is, I think, is a understanding of not just your obligation, but of how everything is working in a grander scale.
Okay, I was going to take a slightly different approach with the same starting step, which is that if you did chesed, it is possible to do chesed without viewing things through the lens of tzedakah, right? Like you could do beyond, like, let's say there are people, I'll give an easy example. There are people who just like throw their money at all charitable causes without actually like assessing human needs and viewing them with, human dignity and all this other stuff, What Mishlei is getting at by pairing them is saying that the type of tzedakah the type of chesed and tzedakah that result in these three outcomes is the chesed that is based on tzedakah. Like you need both of them. You need to be rooting your chesed in fundamental human needs, but you also need to go beyond just doing your obligation to fundamental human needs and going to like seeking beyond that. Like you're not just viewing people as like recipients of obligations that you have to discharge. Yeah.
So I think there is like another case where you can do chesed with that tzedakah is like, let's say you're giving a homeless person flowers. Right. You're not fulfilling their basic needs, but you're still showing them love. Correct. Yeah. That's a good point also. So, like you were saying, they kind of piggyback off each other.
Right.
You need to fulfill both kinds of needs.
Yeah, that's another good explanation. Okay, so then what was the outstanding question that we had for the second half? Were we working on something else? Chaim?
Yeah, I just had another question. We may have asked this before. It seems like there's a big difference between plain pshat and the pasuk and what Tzedakah is saying. And that seems like a pasuk is like an if-then, and Tzedakah is saying when you're seeking it, like when you're in either the mode or like the personality type, or not type, but like in the realm of seeking chesed, you have already found these things. So I was wondering if we can like kind of like figure out the differences between those two, and I guess what is he saying? It seems like plain pshat is easier to read just because it's an if-then, and like if-then tends to be easier. Right.
So let's do one thing and read Sadigon's actual perush, because I kind of forgot what he said now, and we did read it yesterday, but we didn't work on it. Oh, yeah. Okay, fine. So you don't have to take this into account. Remember, you could treat Sadiq as his Targum as a standalone thing. So this is what he says in the commentary. Hatzedek hu sheyatza ha'adam yidei chavasa hamishpatis. The tzedek is when you discharge your legal obligation. Chesed hu sheyitin lif'amim lamala mimash motal alav. Chesed is when you give above what is incumbent upon you. So that's literally the Rambam's definition that we gave before. Misha asa'am, someone who does these things. See, here he does put it into a future. Yimsa chaim tzedakah v'kavod. We'll find chaim tzedakah and kavod. And then he gives a olam hazeh and olam haba interpretations. But olam hazeh orech yamim al derech hamofis. In this world, you'll get a longer lifespan by way of a miracle. Okay, not typically the way we look at Mishlei, but tzedakah v'kavod be'enei bnei adam, and you'll also get tzedakah and kavod in the eyes of people. And presumably this means people giving you tzedakah, or like doing tzedakah to you, or relating to you with tzedakah, and then getting kavod. And then ulam haba hachaim hanitzchim hakavod meis Hashem. And then ulam haba you're going to get the true chaim and the true kavod. And I added yesterday the true tzedakah because if you understand ulam haba as a natural outcome of your actions here, so then it actually is like what you are owed. Chaim, I don't know what you want to do with that, but like you see that he's not taking himself entirely seriously when he translates it into the past tense, matzah. I don't know why he would do that unless hold on, I don't think it's a typo on my part. Yeah, no, it says matzah, so don't know what to say. Yeah. So I'm just saying we have a mat here to ignore the question if you want. Yeah. All right, should we check out Rabbeinu Yonah? We haven't done that yet. Yeah.
Is there anything going down the road? It's not like you were starting to say something about like you were looking for one thing and you're going to get out something that you hadn't expected. That you'll be searching out, like if you see something like you think that you're going to be diving into, and like you're searching for Tzedakah and Chesed.
Yeah. And
then when you get out, like once you're actually in the thing, is not what you thought it was, like looking at it from the outside. That then from that you'd find like you didn't think that you were going to find Haim, Tzedakah, and Kavod.
Yeah.
When you thought you were going to be going in for Tzedakah and Chesed. I would think that then I'm struggling a little with how Haim, Tzedakah, and Kavod would be things that you don't really see on the outside, but they would be something on the inside.
So the way we did it, the way we were learning it yesterday, I think, or at least I don't know, Isaac, if we talked about this, but this is the way I was thinking about it, is that not that you don't expect to find this, is that that these are things that you're already seeking. You want Chaim, whether you explain that to mean like this, less the way Sean's saying it. I mean, I don't think people know that they want that necessarily. Like they want that for them. They want to be treated that way. But in terms of the way we were saying it, like they want enjoyable, good quality life. They want people to do acts of tzedakah to them, and they want kavod. But the havamina is that you get these things like in another way. And this is saying, no, the way to do this is to engage in tzedakah and chesed.
It's giving you the recipe.
It's giving you the recipe, yeah. So that's we thought that was a smooth way to read it, yeah. Not that you can't read it the other way, but I think it's easy to read this way. Okay, let's look at Rabbeinu Yonah, which we didn't read yesterday. I know I'm skipping over Mitzvah Study, which I said we would do, but I'm kind of anxious to see Rabbeinu Yonah. Okay, so Rabbeinu Yonah starts at the bottom of the Rabbeinu Yonah. Rodef tzedakah v'chased. Nismach hamikra hazel inyan shalmala. This is attached to the pasuk before it. What was the pasuk before it? Otar nechman v'shemen b'nevei chacham uksil adam yavalenu. A treasure house, a delightful treasure house, and oil are in the abode of a chacham, but a fool of a man will swallow it up. All right. So what does he say about this? He says, "Lahodia alma yitrach hachacham le'tzor otsaros ba'olam kala." It's telling you why a chacham is going to try to amass storehouses in a transient world, right? Meaning the world's going to go away. So why are you like storing up? Al-Kain samach lo ha'inyan hazeh. That's why it puts our pasuk next to it. But Amar and says, Ki kavanas amal ha'chacham ba'otzrosav lirdof tzedakah v'chesed. Says that the reason why a chacham toils to get storehouses of wealth is in order to pursue tzedakah v'chesed. All right. So in other words, he's not doing it to get like fame and success in this world. He's doing it so he can be engaged in these other things. Yimsa chaim tzedakah v'kavod inyan tzedakah zuchus. Okay, that's completely different than the way we're doing it. Tzedakah here means zuchus. Miloshin ba'ansa bi tzidkasi biyom machar. it means merit, like vindication. Okay, like my innocence will testify for me tomorrow. God reckons it for him as a tzedakah, as like a merit. Ki milvad ha'chaim, because in addition to life, hazuchus kayems lo l'olam haba, then he'll have a merit that persists for him in olam haba. V'ha'chaim v'ha'kavod peros hatzedakah v'chesed, and life and kavod are the outcomes, the fruits of tzedakah and chesed. V'lo techsar kol hazuchus mipnei peros, and you will not lose out on this merit due to these fruits. As it says in Devarim, it'll be good for us all the days to cause us to live as today. And it's written afterwards, it will be a tzedakah for us before Hashem our God. Okay, this is it's not the smoothest reading compared to like the straightforward thing that we were saying. If anyone has any like immediate ideas on this, I'll hear them. I'm kind of in the mood to use our remaining time to do someone else. Sure, do someone else?
I don't have much.
Okay, yeah. I mean, should we do the Meiri? Meiris are a go-to guy. Let's do the Meiri. So this is a Torah lesson in doing tzedakah and gemilas kasadim. The yi'ud and a promise or an assurance, gemul of reward, b'hasmadasan yimtza chaim v'kavod. That in persisting in them, then you'll find chaim and kavod. Can I go on a rant? Side rant, okay? This is, okay. I guess this kind of relates to Mishlei, but I was thinking more in terms of like life skills and study skills and stuff. So when I gave my study skills class did I already go on this rant? I might have already gone on this rant, but I'll do it again. It's just been on my mind lately. When I gave my study skills class in Shalhevet of like time management and like, habit cultivation, all this other stuff, the worst objection that I would ever get from a student would be like, Rabbi Schneeweiss, it doesn't work. And then I would say, well, have you tried it? No. So that's worst objection number one, okay? But part of trying it is not just trying it for a day and then stopping. Part of it is hasmadasam, is doing it on a consistent basis. In other words, you cannot, I don't care, there are some methods that work instantaneously for things like that's what people call like life hacks. But if you're doing trying to do habit cultivation, if you're trying to like acquire a skill or virtue, you can't just say, I'm going to try it out for a day or two. You have to conduct a somewhat long-term experiment. Again, I think 2 weeks or a month is like a more reasonable time to give it a try. So I think here, I think it's obvious in a case like Mishlei that if a person says, well, I gave tzedakah and I didn't get any of this stuff, you'd say, well, you have to make it into a habit, and it shapes the way that you view the world and and the way you interact and the way people interact with you. You have to actually engage in it. And I think that people make this mistake all the time with mitzvos. People made this mistake with Tefilah. I always had students in my Tefilah classes who would be intellectually interested in Tefilah, but they had gotten into the habit of not davening, and then one day they'd be motivated to give it a try, and they would try it and then they would stop. That's not how Tefilah works. That's not how meditation works. That's not how any mindfulness practices work. You have to actually commit yourself to doing it on a consistent basis, and then you see the results later. So I got triggered into a rant by this hasmadasam. It has to be that's how he's learning Rodik, by the way. It has to be something that you're making a priority and doing on a regular basis. Okay. V'kasha l'farish etel k'tas mefarshim inyan amro yimtza tzedakah ad shepirshuhu chaser. So he says it's difficult to explain it according to some mefarshim. That's the Sefer Chukah. That's the Radak's father. It's difficult to say yimtza tzedakah until you explain it as though it's missing a term. V'haya roi lomer, it would have been proper to say yimtza chaim lit tzedakah. He will find life for tzedakah. V'kavod lechesed. Okay, klomar yimtza chaim b'schar hatzedakah. He will find life in reward for tzedakah and kavod in reward for chesed. What's he doing with the pasuk? What's the difficulty and what's Chaim? Yimtza chaim litzedakah, and yimtza kavod l'chesed. Oh, okay. So sorry. He's saying this is the difficult reading. Okay, he's saying that's the difficult. That's how Rabbi Yosef Kimchi wants to read. He says, "Vein sorech lidchok kolkach." Not that I'm dissing the chukah, but I want to see what the Meiri says. He says, "You don't need all this." Shekavar masana biyud hagmul. We already find in the promise of reward, Yisa bracha meis Hashem utzedakah melkei yisho. He will lift up bracha from Hashem and tzedakah from the God of his salvation. Kolomar, meaning to say, Yimtza chaim b'kavod b'tzedek uviyosher. He will find life and honor in tzedek and uprightness. Rotzalomar kamosha roy v'naos b'chuko, meaning that which is proper for him and fitting with his needs. I don't know what he's saying. I don't know what he's pushing away and what he's like accepting here. Let's read his Derech Nister just so we could get something out of the Meiri here in the remaining minutes. Derech Nister romes al shleimus hamidos. In the Derech Nister, it's talking about perfection of midos. Tzedakah romes al mitzua hadrachim. Okay, this is a good trick, by the way. Meiri sometimes learns tzaddik and tzedakah as middle path. Okay, so he says tzedakah is middle path. Chesed romes linatia me'at elakateh ha'akron, and Chesed is inclining a little bit towards one of the extremes. So if you've done Hilchos Deos, that's the Rambam system. Is the goal is to be in the middle path, but the Chassid is always inclining towards one side or the other because there's what we call. We came up with a term for this. I think the Deos drift. Like if you have like the shopping cart that like goes to one side, you try to stay in the middle, but you're going to be pulled in one direction. So you always have to like course correct. V'chaim v'kavod. Shleimus hanitzchi, and chaim and kavod are for the ultimate, the eternal perfection. So what would this mean if we read it through that lens? That someone who pursues tzedakah and chesed, meaning you pursue the middle path with the inclining, will find chaim, tzedakah, and kavod, will find the ultimate perfection. Seems very broad here, right? Shleimus haseichel. So this is addressing someone who is, Rabbi Zimmer's been doing this in a shiur, right? This is what the Rambam says in the Four Perfections, which is that perfection of midos is only a means to an end, and perfection of the seichel is the ultimate end. So I think there is a very, very common havamina that you don't need perfection of midos in order to get perfection of seichel. That perfection of midos is something else. And this is speaking to that relationship. What that is a much longer shiur, about how that's required. But that's the area that he's taking. Okay, so let's do this. Let's just summarize the ideas we have, and then we'll stop for today and go into new pasuk for tomorrow. So we started off with the idea that we had the type of approach we had yesterday, which is if you are someone who pursues doing tzedakah and chesed for other people, which means fulfilling their needs and going above and beyond, then as a result, you will find an improved life because you're improving the system and you're going to get benefits from that indirectly, systemically. Then you're going to be the recipient of tzedakah because people will want to actually do tzedakah for you just like you did for them. And you'll get a reputation of being a Baal Tzedakah and Baal Chesed, which will benefit you in the long run. And you get Chaim Zifkin's pro-cyclical benefit of that this produces other people who do the same thing, which is going to be a benefit for everyone. Okay, so that's interpretation one. Then we had Sean's interpretation, which is if you are looking for these things, then you will find them, which means that if you relate to other people through the lenses of tzedakah and chesed, then there's going to be an evolution in the way that you view them. First, you're going to view them, instead of viewing them as objects, you're going to view them as people. That's Chaim. Then you're going to view them, once you view them as people, you'll see that they have needs. That's tzedakah. And then once you see them as needs, then you'll view them as like fellow tzelem elokims, or people who are truly human like yourself with true human dignity, like what we call kavod habrios, right? The question is, what's that gonna do? So it's funny because according to, if you read it that way, it seems to be saying like that's its own benefit.
Well, for me, I think the havamina is that a lot of people don't go in with that assumption, or
right,
or they are so blinded by the fact that they think that people are out to get them.
Right.
They can't even see anything. So it's saying, if you really want to see it, just look and you'll find it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think there's one important thing to add though, which is that it's more than just looking. I think you do actually, like, I think you do have to engage with the person in a different way. Right. I mean, it's not just a glass half empty, glass half full type thing. Like you actually, that could help to start you off. But I think you have to like reinforce it through actions and specifically through the Torah's Tzedakah and Chesed. Yeah. And then you have Eli's interpretation, which is the hierarchy of needs. How were you interpreting the first half, or how did we interpret the first half according to what you were saying? Was that going with?
You were saying, and I kind of like built off it, that they're built off each other.
Right. That you need the ground, the foundation of assessing people's actual needs and then doing things that are beyond their needs. What was the result? And I remember how we said Chaim, Tzedakah, and Kavod. That's a hierarchy of needs. But what did we say the point of the pasuk is according to that? Oh yeah, maybe we didn't finish that. Yeah. All right. So let's think about it. We'll stop for today, and then we'll, if we think about it, then let us know. All right. Let us continue tomorrow. Better. Yep. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks. Nice to have you guys back.